Hello, 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 hello. How is everyone doing tonight? How are we? How are we all? Happy Easter, everyone. Um, yes, my game Blob released today. Hey, it's been a very stressful day. Nothing more stressful than releasing a game. But yes, it is out. So if you haven't done it already, please head over to your App Store on your phone. Just download it. It's a free game. By all means, play it for as long as you like. As long as hopefully you enjoy it. That is. Um, but yeah, give it a shout. Just play it, share it. Do me a favor, just shout it from everywhere you are on social media. It'd be really great. It really does support me, and it really does inspire me to carry on with it. If Blob does really well or well enough, I've got a whole year's worth of seasonal content mapped out, and the seasonal content's got some really interesting stuff coming into it that I'm really looking forward to trying to mess about with. So support it, share it, and hopefully we get to that point where it actually makes money back. That actually cost it to actually get it out. But yes, it is out. There are some bugs. I've been informed of some bugs throughout the day, but I'll be working on a patch for that this week and hopefully getting that patch out, as well as adding a bit new artwork as well to the game, and hopefully get that out hopefully next week. So thank you for everyone who has already downloaded it and already started playing it. Thank you, Abby Doody. Keep at it. Only like another 120, 175 left to go levels. The game does have 200 levels. It's quite a lot, and more will be added, especially in the seasonal content. Seasonal content will have their own exclusive levels with all unique stuff in it, so it'll be really cool. So please, please, please check it out. I have got chat open in my other screen, and tonight we are taking a look at Animal Crossing's rolling world effect. So if you didn't know, last week we done a case study of Animal Crossing, and one thing we looked at was the rolling world effect, and looked at theorized how that was actually achieved. And it's my reasoning that it is achieved through vertex displacement. Okay, changing the world position of vertices. And the reason why I say that is because in the game there's no real long range interaction. It's all up close, meaning that everything around you is flat and approachable. That's important because when you do world position offset, it's only changing the rendering of the vertices, not the actual physical location of the vertices and the object. So that's quite important. So this kind of technique really only works for something like Animal Crossing, where you can't do long range interactions. Okay, but it is a really cool effect. So tonight we're going to go through it. If you want to join along, you're more than welcome to join along if you're open already. If not, take some notes. This video will be archived and available to all my patrons straight after, and be available to everyone else in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, so to start off with, all I've done here is I've added a landscape. Okay, nothing special. So the majority of this is maths. So if you are a mathophobe, don't fret. I will try to explain it. It's not too complicated, the maths. It can get a bit wordy, but I'll do my best to explain it as best as I can throughout. First things first, let's get this player character controlling like we do in Animal Crossing. Because at the moment, I'm using a third-person template, by the way. Third-person template has this sort of movement, which isn't very Animal Crossing-like. And it's quite important. The fixed camera position is quite important to Animal Crossing. And there's a reason why in Animal Crossing you can't just spin it around, rotate it around, and so forth. It's because the vertex position offset is actually using the camera position to calculate when it should be changing the horizon of the world. So the fixed camera is quite important. So let's make a fixed camera part of our third person character here. So I'm going to open up my third person character's blueprint. And what we're going to do in here is quite simply, when it opens up, on mouse input, we're going to turn these off. I'm just going to disconnect the events quite simply. And then I'm going to go to my camera boom. Let's go to the viewport so I can see what the camera boom is. The camera boom is like an invisible long stick with a camera on the end of it. And over on the right hand side details panel, you will find in the camera settings, use pawn control rotation and you've got an inherit pitch, inherit yaw, and inherit roll. So we want to turn off the use pawn control rotation because we're not telling it to use the mouse, and we also want to turn off inherit pitch, yaw, and roll. That way it doesn't reorientate itself when the character turns around. So it's always facing one direction. So once you've done that, we're now going to reposition the camera so that it is slightly up in the air a bit. So to do that, I'm just going to go to my camera boom and rotate it. Let's go 30 degrees in the air. And I'm going to change its target arm length here to 600, so it's a bit further away. Compile that, and if I push play, I can test that out, and hey, there you go, I've got a fixed camera position for my third-person character. So now comes the fun bit of trying to work out how do we actually make this rolling world effect. Now, another reason why it is a vertex displacement is that if it was an actual cylindrical object, it would be wrapped around itself, because if you ever played Animal Crossing, the world is too long for the circumference of the rolling pin. So it doesn't make much sense. So the horizon is constantly moving. So what it's actually more like is like a towel on a rail. So it's curved at the top and then drops down either side. It's kind of like that effect. But with some slight angling. So what we're going to be doing in that is creating a material function, and I'll show you then how to apply that material function to your landscape here and other objects as well. So in here we're going to create a new material, and this is going to be my rolling landscape material. And as well as that, we're going to go into my blueprints. No, not blueprints. Materials and textures. And you want material function. And we're going to call this one rolling world effect. And the material function is a reusable function of a piece of code that you in material nodes that you can replicate on other materials just by simply adding it to it. So it's just another function, okay? And that's where we're going to do all our code and then adding it to our landscape map. So for us to see how all this works, let's just add it to our landscape material. So open up your landscape material, and as I said, we're messing about the world position offset. So I'm going to right click here and type in material function, and you'll see unspecified function. You just want to choose your one from the list. So I've got a rolling world effect there. Now, it's going to have no outputs yet. We haven't put any code on there yet. It will do in a second when we start adding stuff, and then we can plug that into the world position offset. So I'm going to apply that. Oh, I forgot to actually add the texture. Let's add a texture to this world as well. So I'm going to add a texture sample. Shortcut for that is if you hold down the T key and left click, it'll add a texture sample node for you. And I'm just going to put some simple grass in it. Nothing special. Like so. And that's it. Okay, so there's our grass. Whilst we're here, actually, let's get rid of the specular. Don't want it shiny. And let's increase the roughness to 1. And there we go. We've got some rough looking grass. No problem, Zeb. Thanks for the comment. So, as I said, all the world effects happen in this material function. So let's open this bad boy up and look at what you actually have to do here. So the result here is just an output going into this pin here, and that gets you your output. Now I'm going to load up my notes that I've got here. So if I missed your comment in chat, I just want to make sure I get things correct. Don't mess you guys about a bit. Okay, so I'm going to break this down. It's not too long, it's not too complicated, but I will try to explain the maths behind it as best as I can. So we need 2 input nodes. The first input node is the world position, and that gets you the absolute world position of the vertices inside your object that this material is applied to. So pretty simple, it's just the location of the vertices that are being painted. Once you've got that, the other input node we need is the camera position, which is what you think it is. It's just the camera position in the world space. So with these two, we need to find the difference between the two of them. So I'm going to drag out and do a subtraction and subtract this one from that one. And we're going to also then put an abs into it. So what this is doing is simply just finding out how far away the camera is from each vertex. Okay, and it's getting that value and making it absolute. And absolute basically just lops off the negative if it is a negative number. So if it's -3, it becomes 3. Pretty simple. That way we just get a hard number of how far away each vertex is from the camera. And the reason why we want to do this is because we want to make sure that the effect doesn't apply to all the vertices. You want a bit of flat land on the top, and then it starts rolling. Otherwise, everything looks like it's on a round hill. You don't want that. So you want to have a bit of like a dead space in the middle where it's flat. Okay, so once we've got that, we are going to then mask it in one direction. Because we're only rolling it in one direction, we want to mask it in one direction. So I'm going to drag out of here, and we're going to do a mask, and it's component mask. And the component mask takes the 3 values, because the world position and camera position come in 3 values, X, Y, Z, or RGB. And the mask allows us to just simply mask out each of these channels. So it says RGB, but essentially it is X, Y, Z. Okay, so I want it only in the X value, so I'm going to turn off the G. And now I've only got in the X value. And I want the X value because my world is, my player is facing X. So that's X, okay? So I want it in that direction. If I wanted it in that direction, I'll choose G. Okay? So that's what's happening now. We're then going to go into an if statement. Let me just move this out of the way. So we need an if statement. I will also go back through all this, so if you have missed it, don't worry, I will go back through and recap as we go. So this if statement takes 2 values, A and B, and you've got different outputs based on these conditions. So if A is greater than B, it will plug in this pin, it will output this pin, sorry. If it's equal to B, it will output this pin, and if it's less than B, it will output this pin. So the value I want to check is how far away do I want it to be before it starts applying this effect. So you can actually tweak this number to what your liking is, but I'm going to add a simple 1000 to it. So that's my B value, and the value here is going to be 1000. And again, this could be anything you like. Okay, so if you find that you need to decrease it or increase it based on your game that you're making, you can do so. Once you've got that, we now need to put in these conditions. Now, all I'm using the if for is basically to mask and unmask the effect. And the easiest way of doing that is with a vector. So I'm going to go and hold down the 3 key and left click. And this one is going to be blue equaling 1. Excuse me, let me take a sip of my drink. So yeah, sorry, this is a 3 vector. If you shortcut for this, if you hold down 3 and left click, it'll create this. So the reason why we're using the blue value is because that's the Z value. And so what it's doing is actually rising up and down the land. So the land is going to be affected in the Z axis. So we need it to be in the Z here, and B. So if it's greater than B, A equals greater than B, we're going to drag that in to there, which means it's going to be turned on. And we now need to turn it off. We do 3 again, create this one, and this time I want it off in all the axes, so 0, 0, and 0. And that's going to be plugged into A is less than B. So what we got here is just simply a mask. It's just saying if the number is too, if the camera is too close to the vertex, don't apply the effect. Once we've got that, we then have the actual code to actually make it move. Let me just zoom in onto my notes here. Ooh, Okay, so what we need to do here, first of all, is have a subtraction. Now, the reason why we're subtracting is because we want to take the amount of distance the vertex actually is. Okay, so this is like maybe this vertex is like 1500 units away. I want to find out how many units away it is from the camera, the cutoff point, and this cutoff point is after 1000. So if I subtract 1000 from that, that will now get me my new number, which is the distance away the vertex is from the cutoff point. Hopefully that makes sense. It's hard to do without diagrams, but I'm doing my best. There's a middle step we'll do in the middle in a second. We'll come back to that in a moment. Okay. Next, we're going to do is multiply this by -1. Now, the reason why we multiply it by -1 is because we want it to go down and not up. If it was +1, the land would be rising up and curling upwards. So if you want to do like an inception type thing, you could do inception type thing with this. It just looks a bit weird. It's much better with the rolling down effect. With that, we're then going to multiply this by this if statement. So, multiplying it by our mask. Let's plug in my output result here. Let's plug this in. We're at the other nodes we need to add to this in a moment, but I just want to show you what it's doing as we progress through this. So I hit apply, and then I'm going to go back to my landscape material. And now you can see I've got a result pin on here. I can now plug that into my world position offset and hit apply. Now to apply this material to the landscape, I'm going to select the landscape and just drag that material onto its option in the details panel. We'll give it a second to compile the shaders. And you can now see some crazy stuff happening here. So you can see that it's actually rolling already. So you've got this sort of conveyor belt effect at the moment. Now the reason why it looks so harsh is because it is harsh. It's a harsh value. We need to mess about with the value and turn it off. So you can see it kind of working here. Okay. So as we approach the edge, it's rising up new vertices. And the reason why you're getting that stuttering effect is because the numbers are so harsh. They're going for basically from 1000 units to 0 like that. Okay, so we need to make that more gradual and less harsh. We also need to change it so it's not linear. At the moment, you can see it's a dead straight line down with this landscape. It just moves it all the way down. Okay, so what we don't want to do is make it linear, which is what this is. And the reason why it's linear is because we aren't doing anything to this subtracted value here. The subtracted value is just a consistent value. So the one vertex is 500 units away, the next one is 510, next one's 520, next one's 530, and it's in constant value of 10. Therefore, it's going to be a linear gradient, which is not what you want. So we need to add some curvature to it, as well as make the numbers less harsh. So let's make the numbers first of all less harsh. So on the multiplier here, I'm going to divide this by a value. Again, this is a value you can tweak to your liking, but I found the number 5 to be quite good. So I'm putting 5 there and hit apply. And let's have a look and see what that's done to it. So you can see now the gradient that it's falling at is a lot slower. It's still linear, but it's not as steep. It's not as direct down. So you can see the horizon still. You can still see it. So you can probably get away with this if you wanted to, but we can do better. Because we don't want this linear line, okay? This linear fall off. So to change that, what we're going to do is first of all use power. And the power, imagine this is like a graph. At the moment the graph is linear. To make it curve, you need to make it a quadratic curve, okay, with a parabolum. Parabolum? Can't remember how you pronounce it, but a curve basically. So we have a power, and we do a power of 2, which is its default. We'll plug that in. So let's have a look and see what that's done. We aren't done yet. And when the compiled shaders kick in, you'll get a curve. However, you'll notice an issue. There's your issue. Okay, it's gone back down to a very harsh value. It's now curving really suddenly. So how do we fix that? Well, let's have a look at our maths going on here. So subtraction, okay? So the subtraction here could be quite a large number. Imagine if you've got 1,000. 1,000 to the power of 1,000 is a lot. Therefore, you're moving it down a lot. We don't want that to be the case. So we need to make this subtracted value a lot smaller. So what I'm going to do here is simply divide it and plug that into the power. And I'm going to divide it by 50. Again, this is a number you can tweak and change to your liking, but these are numbers I have found to look the best. I hit apply, and we're pretty much done with the rolling effect. I'm then going to show you how to actually apply it to your game in an actual meaningful way. When it's like kicked in. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so now we've got this rolling hill effect. And you can see the curvature of it is a lot nicer now. It's not so spiky, it's not so sudden. It's got a lot more, well, I say realistic, a more believable fall off. It actually looks like it's a rolling pin. Yeah, gives you that good illusion. It's simple as that, really. So we'll go over the math one more time, and then we'll go through how to actually apply it in a constructive way to your game. So the maths, first of all, we are calculating when things are going to start kicking off, because we want a part to be flat where the player is working with. Virtualities, will this work with items? It will do when we've finished with it. I'll be showing you that in a second. I'll explain all that in a moment. So yeah, sorry. So the first part here is simply taking the camera position and the world position, and we are going to calculate when we want the effect to actually start. And once that is done, we are then using this if statement to mask it. So if it is below 1,000 units away, that vertex won't have the effect applied. It'll be dead normal. It'll be flat, which is against what you want, because you want to model all your things flat. We then got it being multiplied by our calculation here to calculate the actual fall off of the ground. So the fall off the ground is taking the distance away from the camera it is, dividing it by 50, so we're decreasing that size massively, so it doesn't drop to the floor as drastically. We're then doing a power by 2, and the power by 2 adds that curvature to it, because if, for example, 2 to the power of 2 is 4, 3 to the power of 2 is 9, and so on and so forth. And you'll notice that the numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now it's a curvature, that's a quadratic curve. We then multiply it by -1 because we want it to go down, not up. To demonstrate that, I can just quickly flip this round to 1, and you can see what it looks like when it's going up rather than down. Yep, Mosey, this is exactly like Animal Crossing. And we should get like an Inception type effect where the world sort of curving like on the inner tube. I don't like this look. I think it looks a bit poo, but just to demonstrate that you can do it when the shaders finish compiling. There we go. So you see that curvature. So it's like you're running on the inside of a tube. So yeah, I don't know, you may find a use for it. It's the same code, it's just +1 instead of -1. And change that back to -1. And then we divide it by 5 to again create that ease off, so it's not so harsh of a drop off. And that's applied to an output here. So how to actually do this? Let's figure out how we can actually apply this to the game in a meaningful way. Sprubbly Nuggets, why did the shaders go into negatives? I have no idea. Ask Epic. I don't know why that is the case. It's probably some complicated code behind the scene that's doing it, but I don't know. So yeah, so let's go through the process of actually making it applicable to your game. So first of all, making your game like this is a pain in the ass, because if I want to drag stuff into this world, so let's get my starter content here, and I'll show you the problems we've got to solve. So if I drag a rock in the world, there's a rock, but you can see it just hovers in midair. Yeah. So I need to fix that so it doesn't do that. Why is that dipping down like that? Is that dipping down, or is that my eyes? No, it's just my eyes. So used to world curving, it's broken my eyes. Yeah, so you don't drag a rock in it and you'll see it does this. But imagine trying to build a whole world where you can't actually see it. Yeah. Imagine doing a landscape sculpting where you can't see the landscape. It's a pain in the ass. So let's go through the process of actually how you solve that problem. So what we want is the world to be flat in this view and then curved in game. So let's go through the process of figuring that out. So what we're going to be doing is, let's go back to my function. There we go. We're going to create a material parameter collection first of all. A parameter collection is a list of parameters that you can share globally to your materials. And we need this because we need the level blueprint to interact with this. So let's call this one world material parameters. And we're going to open it up. And we're going to add a simple scalar parameter, which is basically a float, by clicking the add element. Open up your array. And we're going to name it here rolling effect. And the default value of this is going to be 0. Actually, let's make default value 1. There we go. And save that. We'll close. Actually, no. We'll make default value of that 0. Save that and close that. Then, back on your material function, we're going to right click here and get a parameter collection. I don't know if actually you can do it in a function. No, collection parameter, there you go. Collection parameter is what it's called. And if you're on the details panel on the left hand side, you should have your parameter collection selected. Okay. And then from the drop down beneath that, you choose your rolling effect parameter. And what we're going to do is we're going to multiply it by our divide here. Like so. So what that's actually doing, remember rolling effect by default is 0. And what that means is that my landscape material will no longer be rolling inside the start of the game or the editor. Okay, so we've essentially turned it off like a switch. And then we go into our level blueprint. And in here we can go begin play. And then we go set scalar parameter value. And then it will ask for a collection. You've only got one, so choose it. And parameter name, again, you've only got one, the rolling effect, choose that. And then parameter value, you're going to type in the value of 1 and hit compile. And now, so in my game, in my editor, sorry, it's flat, but in my game, it's rolling. which makes things a lot easier when you're building your world. You build it all flat up here. So let's sculpt some stuff here. And let's turn down the size of my brush a bit and sculpt something. Sculpt some hills. Let's add a mountain in the background. Let's go back over here. Okay, and so if I push play now, these hills will come into view. Pretty neat, eh? Oh, I can't make the hill too steep. Let's go over here. So you get this really cool looking horizon effect, just like in Animal Crossing. So next job is getting it to apply to all your objects. But first of all, let me answer some questions that I've seen floating about. So in Mario Galaxy, I saw someone, X Draco, asking if this is like how they do it in Mario Galaxy. No, Mario Galaxy are actual spheres. And the reason why you can tell that is because they're physical space. You can see all the AI and all the other objects. They're all gravitating towards the center of the mass. For that, you need to create a sphere object, which would be your level. And then you need to customize the gravity to always point to the center of the largest mass. And it looks like they're actually doing actual physical simulations in Mario Galaxy. So if you start gravitating towards something that's got a larger mass, or you're closer to something with a larger mass, you'll actually fall towards it. Yeah, so that would be quite useful for that. Does this trick save draw calls? I haven't checked. It should do. Yeah, it should do in theory. Especially as objects will dip in out of the world a lot quicker. So you can hide a lot of LOD stuff a lot easier with it. So it should be just fine. Okay, so there's our world. I'm just going to flatten this bit out a bit because it's a bit too harsh for me to climb over to test it out properly. Let's just do that. Okay, so let's now work on objects, because the issue we've got now is if I was to drag in a object, so let's drag in my rock here, push play, my rock, you see, it's hovering in midair. Yeah, it's not sticking to the ground. So we need to make it stick to the ground. Well, how do we do that? Well, how about we just make our own materials for them using the same material function. So this material function does all the hard work for us. So if I want to go into my objects, and this goes for every single object you want in the world, you do this. So we're going to use the props we've got given in starter content. So imagine I've made all this content for my game. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So in Animal Crossing, here's my buildings, here's my trees, here's my plants. So all these stuff will be in this folder, for example. I'm then going to go into my materials and look at let's delete some old stuff I was working on. Right, there you go. So that's when I was testing things out. So I'm going to go into, like, say, my rock material here. And my world position offset, you see, is blank. So what I'm going to do in here is do a material function call. And just choose my world effect and plug it in. That's it. And you do that for all your objects. So I can't remember if we need to make that an instance. Let's have a look. We may need to make it an instance. Looks like we do. Yeah. Double check that. Yeah, we do. So with the material instance, then we're going to right click on this, create material instance, and we're going to open up our rock actor. Yep. And we're going to change this to the instance one. hit save. Hit play. Why is it doing that? It shouldn't be doing that. Ooh, what have I forgot? This worked fine a minute ago in my tests. Did I change anything in my function? Let's have a look. We may need to take this out of here. Let's take this out of here. And apply that there. And so the only difference would be is that you have it just here instead. So it's connected up like so. So we copy this stuff to my rock effect here. And again, you do that for all your objects. And this should work. I don't know why it went messing about a minute ago. I'll wait for it to finish compiling. Do. Is the LOD messing about with it? Let's have a look. Move that closer. Okay, yeah, it was just the LOD messing about with it. There you go. It was fine before. It's just the LOD. So there you go. The rock is now stuck to the floor and going around. Okay. So again, if I was to make these bigger, that way the LOD won't mess about with it. Oh, why is it doing this again? Hang on. Shouldn't be doing it in the editor. Wait for that to finish. Do. So I see some, whilst we're waiting for this, I see some people asking, is this infinitely generated? No. But you could use this effect to get away with infinitely generated terrain. Okay, so the rocks, I think LODs are just messing about with them. Because it should be fine. Let's move that back here. Yeah, there you go. It's fine. It's just like the LOD is making it disappear. But you have to keep in mind it's still using distance and its size. So you do have to take that into account. So for all your objects in your game, you have to apply that effect to it. And that goes for things like grass as well. So we show you how to do it with grass. So my starter content again. Let's go to props. So my bush here. I'm going to go from a bush. And we're going to copy over this code. And apply. And then let's see if it works without making an instance. It should be fine without an instance, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's have a look. So I'm going to go to my foliage editor and we'll drag the foliage in there. Hit play. Yeah, no, you don't have to make an instance. And there you go. See the foliage comes into view. Let's make it bigger so you can actually see it. Okay. So you do get that illusion now it is running on forever, but it really doesn't. Let's just, I could walk right to the edge. Let's have a look. But you could, in theory, make this an editable landscape, so that the landscape just duplicates and retextures itself onto the other side. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it'll be fun. Let's add water to this. So let's add some water. Let's do it over this side of this mountain here. So I'm going to my sculpt here. I'm going to hold down shift like so, and let's add another landscape, and we'll lower that down a bit. Hit create, and this one is going to have some ocean in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my starter content, materials, find my ocean one, or lake, whatever one they got here. Let's do lake. And I just need to go to my world position offset, so let's just copy this stuff in. World position offset, apply, boom, done. And it's that simple. I'll wait for it to render in. Compile. Oh, I've actually got to add it to the actual landscape. Where is it? There it is. There we are. Wait for it to compile the shaders. But there we go. Here we go. When it finishes 300 shaders. Bloody hell. I'm having a sip of my drink. Spobby Nuggets. Would I go into my Sky Sphere material and do this and it will have a rolling effect? Not necessarily. What do you want your Sky Sphere to do as a rolling effect? Nothing exciting drink-wise, just Coca-Cola. Fishing rod system. That would be cool to do, Ronan. Yeah, that'd be fun. Oh, you got me thinking. How could we make a... Yeah. Can you make a TD turret? What's TD? Team Deathmatch turret? Is that what it is? What one you control? Or is it AI controlled? Which one? There we go. So the water's now compiled. So if I walk over this mountain, I should see now water spawning in. And water would be quite cool because it'll look like it's going on infinitely, like in the ocean. There you go. And here's where you do your fishing. But it would work just the same. If you followed my swimming tutorials, you can make this a swimming pool. And you can swim around forever and ever and ever. But you see what I mean? You get a cool... Looks like it goes on forever effect. Nice. Tower defense turret. Oh, tower defense. Okay. Yes. I will be doing tower defense stuff at some point. I don't know when. I'll tell you what's coming up soon. Well, I say soonish. The ability system series is now done for all my patrons, so they've got access to all 18 episodes. And the first episode went up for public viewing on Friday a couple of days ago. So every Friday you're going to get a new ability system. And then you've got... I'm making 2 private streams at the moment for private client, and they will be available in the future. Don't know when, but they are a crafting system and a skill system. A skill unlock system. So you'll be looking forward to those. Probably summertime, be about that time. Then we've got patrons have got 2 episodes of the new AI series, the Melee AI series. So if you want to do Melee like sort of Batman Arkham style, or like Assassin's Creed style, where they sort of surround you and then take turns to attack you and things like that. We're doing that in patrons this week and next week and so forth. And then obviously you've got Making Your First Game series still carrying on. The next premium series will be out in the summertime, and that is making your second game in UE4. That's coming along well. I've been making the assets for that and getting that all figured out and getting ready to film and record that over the next few weeks. So we'll see how far that gets. But yeah, we're getting there. Loads of cool stuff coming out. That doesn't count all the little one-off videos we've got happening coming out as well. Titanium, please do something on racing or fighting games like Burnout, Need for Speed, or Tekken. I'll need to spend some time on those. I do not have much experience with racing or fighting games, or sports games for that matter. Racing games wise, probably be easier. Fighting games are a pain in the bum. I would have to experiment. I'm not clued up on it. Tower defense stuff will more likely hit in the stream before an actual series and tower defense stuff happens. We'll see. It depends on how much time I get. If I get time to make loads of content, I'll make loads of content. At the moment, it is tough. I'm working from home for my real life job, as well as looking after my 2 children, which is just as hard as well. So it is a lot of work, especially Blob stuff. Blob's got seasonal content I've got to make yet, and patches, so it's a lot of stuff there. Podcast. If you don't know, I've got a podcast out. First episode was out last week. We're recording the second episode tomorrow. If you have a question for the podcast and for the topic this week is working with others and working as a team. If you have any questions about that topic, email the podcast at podcast@ryanlaley.com. So podcast@ryanlaley.com, and we'll answer your podcast in that episode, which we're recording tomorrow. So email me your questions as soon as possible. And again, the topic for that is working with others and working in a team. That sort of project management sort of talk. I've got 2 guests lined up for the podcast. We've got a guy who's a game developer working at Yogcast Games, making a game for them, or get published by them. And I've got a musician who creates music for games and who will be giving out his insight from the other side of it as well. So we've got a developer side of it and other side of it as well. So if you have any questions, please email me at podcast@ryanlaley.com. But yeah, busy. Hey Ryan, what was the intro song? It is, I can't remember what it's called. It's a royalty free one from Incomtech, with by I can't remember his name, Kevin MacLeod. It is called, I think Jerry 5. I think it's called. I think. Have a look at Incomtech and you'll see their music. Look for Jerry 5. I'm pretty sure it's called Jerry 5. Does anyone have any other further questions about the rolling world effect? I mean, it's pretty much all there, really. So you just build the world flat, and the effect will kick in. It looks a bit poo when you ain't got the screen set up properly, and they've got hills all over in your face. But yeah. It's quite nice. I like this effect quite a lot. I might work with this effect in the future and do something with it. It's quite fun. But this is how you make a Animal Crossing game style rolling world. Thank you everyone for coming by tonight. It's been great. Thank you for your support. If you haven't yet already done so, please go onto your app store and download Blob. That's BLOBB. BLOBB, yeah, BLOBB. Please head over and download that. It's free. Check it out, play it, leave us great reviews if you can. The more people that play it, the more likely it'll appear in the float to the top of the app charts and app stores and things like that. So please take a look at that. Quick one, Adam Sweeney is asking, how do you disable the collision with the landscape here? So quite easily, what you do, you click on it, scroll down on the right hand side here till you find collision, and you see it says block all. You want to change that to custom, and we'll change it to overlap pawn, and that should do it, and your player character will now fall for it. You can probably do it with other stuff as well, dynamic stuff, vehicle, whatever you want. And it should now let you just fall through it. The player character also may need to have their collision change. I can't remember now. Let's have a look. There you go. So, there you go, water. Thinking about the fishing, Ryan, if you could use a cable system at Unreal to attach it to a fishing rod and then launch the attached cable in the water, the cable will have a trigger box at the end as bait for fishes. Yes. Yep, that's the way I'll do it. So I would have an actor, which is the bobber, and the bobber will have a cable attached to it and to the rod. When you launch it, the bobber goes out and the cable just does its thing. The cable means nothing, it's just a rendering thing to make it look like something. The bobber is the thing you click on it and put up the fishing thing. Most games do the bobbing thing, so when you see the bobber dip, you can click on it and put up the fish. Vanda, this stream won't be deleted. It will be hidden because patrons will have access to it exclusively for 2 weeks time, and then it'll be made public to everyone. So if you're not already a patron, please head over to patreon.com/RyanLely. A donation of just $1 will get you access to this stream, plus all the other videos. That includes the ability system series, many other videos as well, like loot systems, level streaming, all sorts of stuff. So $1, you'll get it all. If you want project files, things like that, you can get that too in different tiers. Like gold tier will get you access to that. If you want to vote on upcoming content, that's silver tier. So yeah, check it out. But yeah, thank you very much everyone for joining me. I'm going to head off to bed. It is 1 o'clock in the morning here for me. I'm going to eat some chocolate, Easter eggs, and go to bed. So have a good evening, guys, and don't forget, download Blob all the time. I'm going to talk about it until you're bleeding from the ears. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you all next time.